Okay, welcome to Advanced Ball Striking. Doing another. I'm gonna call this a conversation, not so much an interview, with Micheal Cunningham down in Atlanta. And Micheal is a golf instructor, PGA golf instructor down there that's been working with inner city kids and anyone that's been coming to him to learn how to hit a golf ball better. And Micheal had found our channel here on YouTube and has been teaching some of these concepts with good success to some of the kids. So I thought it'd be great to talk to Micheal today a little bit because I don't get emails like this too often. So you want to introduce yourself here, Micheal?
Hey, how you doing? I'm Micheal Cunningham. I'm the head professional at Sugar Creek Golf and Tennis Club in Atlanta, Georgia. I've been there around. We opened back up about 6 years ago. I was teaching down in the Mississippi area in Bay St. Louis at the Arnold Palmer course down there before I came here. I trained under Jimmy Woods, um, James Black, and Calvin Peete. So my background has always been getting players to strike the ball, and that's always been the goal for me. Get players to strike the ball. I was never focused on trying to put a player to make them look a certain way. So I was always interested in what's out there that I can help a player just become a better ball striker. And then they can start reverse engineering back from what the ball flight is doing. You can look at the ball flight and you can just make calibrations. So doing my search and I saw your channel come up and it was very interesting to me because I was like, wait a minute, this is unique. And I do, one thing about me, I have a good situation because I have a lot of inner city and rural area kids that come through our programs, right? So I hate to say this, but this is a good place for me to use them as guinea pigs. I can say like, hey, let's try this out, like a clinical trial, and
Yeah, yeah,
if I have 10 kids that come through in one day and I give them something and seven of the kids get it, that lets me know this need to go in the toolbox, right?
yeah,
So
right, right.
right, it goes in a two box. So the concepts you were teaching and showing, they were just for me, they were common sense concepts, and it was really talking about. And you don't hear people say this a lot, but really, what made me perk my ears up when you was like, do you know what the shaft is doing? Do you know where your shaft is at? Because so much golf instruction is based on where the hands are and where the club head is, but you don't never hear nobody really talk about are you slotting that shaft? Are you getting this shaft in the right position? And I remember years ago, I used to always put a picture of Mickey Wright up there, and I was like, look where Mickey Wright is with her trail forearm to shaft relationship was. And it was always right in that window of success. It wasn't way out away from her. It was down that slot line, like you call it a 430 line. And Mickey Wright won probably what 86 tournaments, and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it was just amazing for me to see somebody focusing on that. So I had the kids trying to put into that slot at really, really slow paces, and then they start speeding it up. And I told them I had already been aware from Doctor. I'm talking to Doctor Dave Tudelman. We had been talking about some concepts with the target side shoulder getting out of the way, up and out of the way, and that was like creating that whip through the strike zone. So then when you
Yes,
were
yeah,
talking
absolutely.
about that, yeah, so
Mhm.
when you talked about that, it just made a lot of sense to me because I was like, we're already using this concept. Now let's see if we
Mhm.
can add this other concept into it. And the kids just, they were like, Coach, why didn't you never tell us about this? I was saying, because, you seeking knowledge from the cradle to the grave.
Yeah, yeah. The quest for truth is it's constant and clear.
Yes, 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 yes. Now, the part all the children and young adults and I have college players that I work with also, and the one part that they all are having a little difficulty is the transition. That's the one that's getting everybody right there. That transition.
Yes, yeah, yeah. It's a very tricky move, and in my teaching in the advanced ball striking course, we really don't. concern ourselves that much with the backswing, even the grip that much, unless I see something that's really crazy. But when I was on tour, I saw every possible grip out there. I mean, guys shooting 64s with just the craziest grips that you could ever
Right.
imagine, just against
Right.
anything that would ever have been taught. So I thought, well, that obviously can't be that important. I mean, there's some probably grips that are better than others, right? But um, the backswing, we don't hit the ball in the backswing, right? So
Correct.
we've seen every possible backswing. We've seen guys pick it straight up, Hubert Green, Jim Furyk, and you've seen these crazy swinging a telephone booth kind of backswings. You've seen guys whip it way inside, going back,
Hmm.
upright, flat, all of this stuff. So, well, I do recommend certain things. I don't necessarily find it a major critical element if somebody's already striking the ball well with a certain backswing. So let's move, into
Right.
what's really important. So those backswings then are really to facilitate the transition, right? So if you take it up and then drop it in, or as Trevino did, took it out and looped it in, then you have people that like George Knudson and Hogan who just pulled it to the inside, and Mo Norman pulled it right inside, getting it very simple, clean, right to the
Right.
inside. An inside backswing tends to initiate then an over the top reaction. So the mystery for most people that take it inside is how do you take it inside and then initiate the downswing and then the shaft flattens out more? That's where
Right.
Hogan had it, George Knudson had it, Mo had it, and what I call tripping the shaft. So in the new Hogan modules that I've put out this year, I address that particular method. Although I would say Hogan's method would be a sub umbrella underneath the ABS, the bigger umbrella of all the different, great golf swings that have worked. So Hogan's
Okay.
methodology would just be that. And so getting back to what you said earlier about you had worked with Calvin Peete. Now, Calvin Peete was one of the greatest ball strikers in history. It's proven because his statistics in the 1980s, he led the tour in fairways and greens hit multiple times, which puts him
10
at the
years in a
top.
row. Yep. 10
That's
years
right.
in a row. Yeah.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. So I'm curious as to, look, we can just kind of start there. What did you learn? What did you discuss with Calvin Peete?
Calvin was really, really keen on, and I'll never forget this. Calvin always said we have to control the low spot, and he said we're going to control the low spot by playing golf going downhill. So he always wanted us to, when he worked with me, and when I was following behind him in Jacksonville, his whole thing was get a player to be playing golf going downhill. And he said they'll play great golf. And then now, since I've studied, biomechanics and all those type of things, what Calvin was saying, he just said it in plain terms, simplistic terms, was closing the gap, getting more horizontally, getting more linear. And that's what Calvin was talking about, being more linear. Because if you just, what I tell my clients, what Calvin shared with us was if you spread your feet shoulder width apart or wider than the shoulder width apart, he said, why are you not using that power that's right in between those legs? He said, so you have to close that gap. And you close that gap by playing golf going downhill, kicking that knee inwards. And then that's going to give you, as we know now, that's going to give you a horizontal ground force like a track star getting into a running block, right? And it's going to give
Absolutely.
you the right. It's going.
Absolutely.
So that's what Calvin was big on, was using that ground force. And he didn't use that terminology back there, but as we know now, that's what he was talking about. Playing golf going downhill is what? That's moving everything, what, 3 to 4 inches more toward the target.
And I don't know that anyone was deeper on the 430 line than Calvin Peete. I mean, he
Oh my
had that thing
goodness.
slotted in there. I mean, he had that shaft almost parallel to the ground before striking into the impact, cutting it low left and around. I mean, he kept that club face looking at the target as good as anybody going through the strike. Just a tremendous golf swing. It he got a lot of criticism because it looked kind of weird as he had a little his arm, I guess, had a an issue in the
Broke it,
left
fell
arm.
on a tree, right?
Yeah, but given that, that may have been to his advantage, actually. I mean, the way I see that he worked around with that arm, because traditional golf instruction would say that trick chicken winging, the bent left arm going through is bad.
Right.
I've seen a lot of guys chicken wing it going through that were great ball strikers. And the first guy that comes to mind is Lanny Watkins, Hall of
Yep,
Fame player.
Lanny. That's right.
Nobody could shoot lower than Lanny Watkins when he was on. When he was hot, he was hitting it like this close. I
Right.
mean, I watched many times as a junior, just sitting there, just stuffing it in there inside 10 feet, 6 holes in a row. I mean, incredible ball striker with a chicken wing, right?
That's
Same
right.
thing. Calvin Peete had a built-in chicken wing, right? Going through,
Hmm.
kept everything close, hands close, and rotated going through on the 430 line. A tremendous golf swing. Very interesting that he told you about hitting it downhill, right? It was the word you
Yeah,
you used.
downhill. Playing golf going downhill. And I've looked back at Calvin's videos since I've been watching your stuff. And the one thing that I didn't catch on before, but Calvin's broken arm, guess what it made him do? It made him get that target side shoulder out of the way really, really fast. Really, really
I did.
fast. Really, really
Yeah.
fast. And I didn't
Yeah.
notice that before, but I was like, wait a minute. I said, Calvin, he had to get that out of the way because he had that broken arm, right? So he had to get some kind of force and momentum, and he got it with the target side shoulder getting out of the way really fast. And that's why you see Calvin playing where he's not flipping the arms over. You know what I'm saying? He's keeping that club face going through the strike zone, and it's a game changer. And Charlie Sifford, if you ever watch some of his videos, now Mr. Charles Sifford, now
Great golf swing.
I-
I love
man,
Charlie
I don't
Sifford.
think nobody was flattered than Charles Sifford.
Fantastic. Love
Right.
it. Love it. I talked a lot about his golf swing early on when I started the Advanced Ball Striking Forum back in
Oh,
2000.
really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I was talking about Charlie Sifford back in 2009. One of the great, beautiful golf swing. Again, deep on the 430 line, super level rotation, locked up the right elbow going through the strike.
Yep.
In the club face, looking at the target. Yeah, great stuff. So did you meet Charlie Sifford at all, or did you work with him?
Yeah, I'm still friends with his nephews, his son. Oh yeah, we talk. Matter of fact, I talk to Chris Sifford and Charles Jr. probably once a week, twice a week. We
Wow.
we we st- we stay in touch with each other. Yeah, we
Well,
have good relationships.
He's a hero around these parts on advanced ball striking, no doubt about it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We stay in touch. And the one Chris, he's just like his uncle. He can't play golf without a cigar. He can't play golf without a
We
cigar.
don't see
Yeah,
those
but
kind of characters anymore on the tour, right? You don't have
no,
that
you
kind of
you don't. You
care.
don't. There's no personalities out
There's
there
no Lee
now.
Caminos out there.
Yeah,
There's
that's right. Yeah, there's no
just
personalities out there no more. Everybody's just a straight shooter, and they so. You know
Chichi
what?
Rodriguez. How about Chichi? Right? Wasn't he just a great showman out
Right.
there, pulling the
Well,
club out like a sword when he, it was just great, right? Just I think these guys understood then. I mean, Arnold Palmer. These guys understood that professional golf is entertainment, right?
yes,
I mean,
yes,
why do we
yes.
watch football on Sundays or whatever? It's entertainment, right? I think they had a great awareness of that, and the tour was full of colorful characters. Doug Sanders, all the wild
That,
clothes and
that's
outfits
right.
that he was wearing. I mean, he'd have his collar on his shirt matching his shoelaces and stuff. I mean, he'd be
Hmm.
yellow and purple and just everything, but it
That's
was all like
yeah.
perfectly done, right? So,
It was great. I've always felt that to be a really really good golfer, you have to have some narcissistic behavior,
oh,
right?
for sure.
But I think today's golfer has tipped that over. Today's golfer is so narcissistic that it just shows up out there with they just so out of touch with the fans. They out of touch, and I don't know if it's because the pots are so big now, because money does change a lot of things. But
Yeah,
I just know that golfers now are like it's like NASCAR. Everybody's just a cookie cutter. You don't have no personality. You can say, hey, this guy's different from this guy, and they all look the same right now to me. They personality wise, they all politically correct. They all saying the same exact thing after the shows. After the round, there's no
Yeah.
Nobody's out there tossing a snake toward Jack Nicklaus these days, all right? You know, it's just a lot of fun out of it's gone, But I think there's now you had said something and it made sense to me. You was talking about the difference, and I've used it since that, the difference how golf, the sport of golf and the game of golf. And I think now the sport of golf has taken such a strong hold that we rarely see the game of golf on television anymore.
Was it ever really a sport? That's the thing, because I would argue that to play professional golf at the highest level, all you needed to do athletically was be able to get the ball out there 235 yards.
Right,
That's it. I mean, I played with Corey Pavin many times when I was in college. I was a freshman at Fresno State, and Corey was a senior at UCLA. And I was playing number one man in the spring. So all those tournaments, every time we would get paired with UCLA, I got paired with Corey Pavin. Now, what a great
right.
thing for an 18-year-old kid to get
They're
to
playing
play.
against Corey
I played,
Pavin.
I don't know, probably 7 rounds with Corey Pavin, I believe.
Right,
Um, to see that a guy that was the top collegiate player in the country that year. I think he won 7 college tournaments, and he hit the
wow,
ball max 235 off the tee. Okay.
isn't that
I
something?
was hitting it 20 yards as a freshman past Corey Pavin, 30 yards past Corey Pavin. Every hole, Corey would shoot 66 and I'd shoot 72. You know,
Wow,
I mean, he would wipe me out, even though I'm 20, 30 yards past him every hole. I had never seen anybody control the golf ball as well as Corey Pavin. He could draw the ball, fade the ball off the tee
mm-hmm.
into the greens at will, depending on where the pin plate. If the pin was left side in front of the bunker, he would draw it in. He'd start it out to the right. It would hit into the middle of the green, and then he would spin the ball back towards the pin. I mean, that kind of
Right,
articulation. Uh, if there were par fours, he simply couldn't reach. He couldn't even with a
right,
driver and a
right.
3 wood. He couldn't even get to the par four. However, he would I would say, lay up short of the green. Like if the pin was back left, his ball was short right of the green. So he's opened up that chip shot. So he had an easy little chip into that back left pin placement.
There you
If
go.
back right, he was on the left side, even though he was playing him like a par five. But he would get up and down 9 out of 10 times and make par. And I mean, it was incredible to watch
Put
that
this
kind
on
of
mute.
articulation and detail. That is not golf as a sport, right?
Right,
That's as a game. And I think that ironically enough, in this age of like, equality and all this stuff or whatever, well, what would be more equality than golf being offered as a sport, as a professional sport, to people that are short hitters, long hitters, every body type, from Chichi Rodriguez that was short and thin to someone like George Bear who was 6'6" and weighed 280 pounds. Tall
correct,
and thin like George
correct.
Archer to
Right.
short and fat. Like, I mean, you had guys on the tour that looked like they were your neighbors who just drank a 12-pack of beer watching the Sunday football game, cutting the lawn in the backyard, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
well, I
Craig
tell a buddy the other day, I said, we'll never,
Bob Murphy, these guys look
right,
just like, or somebody looks like they could be your accountant or something, like Mike Reed or something with a glass. You look like he'd be at the bank or something. It wasn't like, oh, these are all great athletes necessarily. I mean, you certainly had great athletes, but you had people that were not great athletes that
right,
were playing the game at a high level, even winning on the tour or even winning major championships. So I'll digress.
right. Well, it's true because I had one of the coaches on staff. We were talking about that. He was like, he said today's player, is pretty much a prototype. He was like, 6'3" or better, rail thin, and I said, well, I said the one thing that we probably never see again is a Duffy Wardoff. We won't see no more Duffy Wardoffs on tour now, just because I think because the way the game has changed, and I'm gonna tell you, I don't even know if it's a game right now. I think it is a sport. I
It's
think
not a
golf.
game. I don't believe it's a game anymore.
I think we have a sport of golf, and then we have the game of golf, and
Yeah.
I think that. when we talking about the PGA Tour, and DP Tour, I think those are the sport of golf. I think they really are. And it's just the nature of the game now. Just the system it takes to get children into the college ranks. The system now has changed so drastically where like my competitive juniors, you know, if if they're playing an event and the event doesn't give points, they don't even play them no more. They're not playing them because the point system, and they have these apps like Clipped. So college coaches are already looking and seeing where you playing. They're looking at the strength of field. They're looking at everything. So now the junior scholars, if an event doesn't give them points, they're not playing in them no more. Like one coach told me, he said my daughter won 6 U.S. World Championships, and he said it doesn't mean nothing because she didn't get no points for those things. So he said it doesn't mean nothing.
Yeah, that's crazy. I talked to a college coach recently that said he won't even recruit a kid unless he's hitting the ball 300 yards.
Yeah,
He
that's
won't go to
true.
high school. Won't even
It's
recruit
true.
him. So somebody like Corey Pavin nowadays wouldn't even be recruited to even
Oh
play with
no,
us. I mean, this is
no.
crazy. This is insanity. It's insanity as far as I'm concerned. And it's not good for golf. It's not good for the game. It's not good for kids. It's not good for equal opportunity or all the things that people are talking about. I think there it is problematic. But I think the solution really would be to bifurcate the game and say, okay, I mean, if we look historically, we have three eras of golf. We got the Hickory era, right?
Right,
Courses were 5,600 yards. Hickory era. You have the persimmon and blade and steel and balata golf ball era from, let's just say, 1935 to 1995. Roughly
right,
7 years there. Okay. We have that. We call that the classic era that most people would be familiar with. And then we have the super golf era where everything moved into, high tech and giant frying pan drivers and juiced up golf balls and springboard trampoline effects off the face and the ball's going 50 yards farther than it used to. So, given that these are three eras of golf, fine, fair enough. Should there are hickory events, right? So you can go and play in those. You
sure
can
can.
put the knickers on and drive your classic Model T out there, and and it's a fun event. However, there are no persimmon and blade events, really. I mean, we put a few on back in Las Vegas, and that was around 2010, 11, 12, where we did persimmon blades, low compression ball, and they were professional events with real prize money. And we did that. We were doing that to try and see if we could get more investment in that concept and just
Right.
say,
I'm just gonna look at the dog real quick. She's okay. All right.
okay, okay, okay. So the idea was to generate some interest in there and then just start another tour that's a persimmon and blade tour, just like you would have these variations and say auto racing, right? You've got
Right.
NASCAR, you've
You
got
sure
Indy,
do.
you've got stock cars. I think there's hundreds of different auto racing type of where you have different equipment, different
You do.
tracks, right? I
That's
mean,
right.
you would not take an Indy car on a dirt track, right? I mean, the car has
Exactly.
to match the track, the Indy car, Indy track, NASCAR car, NASCAR track, right? Um, Dune buggy car, open desert in Baja or whatever, right? You don't take an Indy
Correct.
car out to the desert, right? So why not have a tour that is persimmon and blade? Classic tracks, 6,800-yard courses. You have to hit long irons into the holes. Again, the reason that you would buy a set of clubs in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s that had a 2 iron in the set, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine wedge. You have
Right.
10 par fours on a golf course. You're going to expect to be three times you're expected to hit long irons into three of those par fours. That means two, three, 4 iron. Three times four, five, and six, and three times seven, eight, nine, right? Or eight, nine, and wedge. That's why there's all those clubs in your bag because you're supposed to use them, right?
You're
To
supposed
test the
to.
skill
Right.
set. The acid test of the golf swing is hitting a 1 iron or a 2 iron, hitting a long iron off the fairway into a par four. That is the method that creates the need for the greatest golf swing, right? Not when the ball's teed up on a tee with a big frying pan driver smacking at that thing. Not as much skill as hitting a 1 iron off the ground into a par four or a 2 iron, right?
Correct.
Those are
Correct.
the skill sets that I teach and that I want to see brought back to the game, but also from the perspective of just pure enjoyment within the body of knowing what that feels like, even if you don't play professional golf or you don't play high level amateur golf because you don't have a good short game. But you might have the ability to hit a 1 or a 2 iron and know what that feels like. Just like my friend who's a surfer, he goes out in the morning and surfs because the total experience is a wonderful experience. And when he drops in on a wave and cuts left and gets in the barrel and goes through, he doesn't get paid for that, right? There's no big
Right.
reward for that or anything. It's
Right.
just the experience and the joy of having that sensation that I will never have that sensation because I'm not going out there in the water with a surfboard and a bunch of sharks swimming around.
Man, I'm the same way. Now, I got a buddy, he's an oceanographer, and he told me, what, a decade ago, he said the ocean is not a playground, right? But I told my buddy Mike Ramakowski, I said, I could go out and I could shoot a 69, 70. And I said, but the one shot that made me feel the best? I said, that uphill 2 iron shot, that I hit to the green. I said, that's the one I remember, and I'll send him a video. He'll be like, man, you had that 2 iron treetop high. And I said, man, that was the shot of the day. It was a shot of the day. And the people I'm playing with, they thought the 7 iron was a great shot or the chip in was a great shot. And I was like, nope. I said that 2 iron was the shot that I'm going to smile on the couch tonight about. That 2 iron shot, And I tell, people always, why don't you get hybrids? I say, because I like hitting long irons, man. For me,
Man.
for
Welcome
me,
to the
I
club, man.
like hitting.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah, I like hitting long irons. It's like the modern golf set, the longest iron is a 6 iron now. And for me, that's a problem when the longest iron in your bag is a 6 iron. I'm like, what happened when the longest iron has become a 6 iron?
Yeah, I think what happened is we now have a third version of golf, right? The super, I call it super golf. So hickory golf, the classic game, persimmon and blades, blada, and now you have the the super golf. So given that in super golf you should have super courses, right? That accommodate that kind of golf. So without putting any judgment on it, I mean, I try not to be negative about it. I try not to be negative about super golf as it's if it's acknowledged as super golf, like it's this different
Right,
version of the game. Then you go and play that, and if that's what you want to do, then great. But to have the classic game just thrown under the bus and saying that it doesn't exist, there will be no tournaments. I mean, the USG doesn't even have a National Persimmon and Blade Open. Why don't they?
right,
Right?
right,
I mean, they should. Why can't they do that? Well, they're not going to do that, but we could do that, right? Or someone that's out there like, hey, if we have $1 million, we can do it. We could put up
right,
a course. We could do. I'll guarantee you, if we put up a $500,000 winner take all persimmon and blade event on a classic track, $500,000, one guy takes all the money. Okay, do you think people would sign up?
Oh my goodness. You
Oh
you
yeah,
you
they
would have
would.
guys coming
And
out
the
the
other five
woodwork,
hundred
man.
thousand dollars is all for renting the golf course and for
Right,
advertising and social media
right.
promotion and all that stuff.
It would be
Million bucks,
guys coming out the
done.
woodwork, man, out the woodwork. Because I mean, yeah. And the
You,
one thing about my course, it is a very, very traditional course, tree lined, small greens.
yeah, ball
The
strikes.
rough is a punishing rough. So we get a lot of the older guys come out, and they blades, the Spalding blades, and they come out and they still playing their blades, and you look in their bags. Now I've seen a mixed bag. I've seen the modern driver with the old blades, and then I've seen the Persimmon woods with the old blades. So I think right there's something going on within that group also that I'm noticing that the players are still playing their blades, but for some reason they feel they need the modern driver now.
Well, to play super golf, yes. I mean, it's a required club, right? I
Yeah,
mean, you'd
yeah,
be crazy
today it
not
is.
to have a modern driver in your bag if you're going to play, 7,400 yard golf courses, right?
That's right.
Now, if you're playing a 6,600 yard golf course with high rough and narrow fairways, I would leave that club at home. I mean,
Most definitely.
so when was it Justin Rose won the U.S. Open at Marion? Right? Was I forget what year that was? It
Yep.
2015 or
Yep. I know you're
somewhere
talking about.
around there. Okay. Now he won. I think he was one under par, and he won the tournament. The course was
Mm,
66, 6,800 yards. You're telling me
right.
Ben Hogan couldn't have gone out there and shot that score with his skill set, playing persimmon and antique clubs from the 1950s? I mean, I think Hogan could have torn that place up and won that
Most
tournament.
definitely. Yeah. Most
Absolutely,
definitely.
or
Right.
Trevino for that matter. Um,
Yeah, I think
so
anything like under 7,000, these guys could have still played. But now I think with the last U.S. Open, it played 76-47. I mean 76-47. I mean, that's what is that? But you know what Justin Thomas said? Justin Thomas said it doesn't make a difference how long you make the course. He said because we're going to figure out how to make it play shorter now. And that's because the ball and the equipment gives them that advantage where they can make the course play. And then the ball, look at these guys. I think the average is 116 on tour. And then you got guys like Rory swinging at 121, 122. Bryson is at 124, 125. There was a guy, he was going to go out for the Champions Tour, and he was at 112. And he went to a strength and conditioning coach, and he said, "There's no way I can survive out there." He said, "The guys out there at 115." He said, "I need to get 3 more miles an hour just so I can compete." And I was like, "Dude, he's at 112." But he felt he had to get faster, and because he knew the environment he was going to walk into.
yeah,
45-inch shaft, big head, 460cc heads. A ball that goes what's the ball going now? 12, 14, 15, 16% further now.
15% further is what I understand.
15,
Yeah.
yeah, 15% further. That's huge. That's huge.
Yeah, but even if it were 10% farther, I mean that's huge as well.
Yeah,
And the golf courses, the classic golf courses, don't make sense anymore because they were
yeah,
designed based upon 250-yard drives, right? So a
right,
400
right.
yard par four was a 250-yard drive. A 150-yard approach shot meant driver 7 iron, right?
Yep,
That
yep.
was a mid iron, you know, mid iron approach, and then anything under 400 yards would move you into short irons where you're hitting 140, 130, 120 approaches, and then anything
Right,
that was much longer than that, if it was 450 yards, that gave you a 200-yard approach. You're looking at a 2 iron, 3 iron, 4 iron. So yeah, the parameter any game is really based upon its parameters, right? Like chess. I mean, the
right,
pieces
right.
can only do certain things. If the pawns could move like rooks, it would just completely change the game. You would
It
just it
changes
wouldn't
everything. Correct.
even be chess, right? So the idea that a golf club, you've got 2 iron, 3 iron, 2 iron goes 200 yards, a 4 iron goes 180 yards, a 7 iron goes 150 yards, wedges, all these sort of things. These are how the ball is set up to where the ball goes 250 yards. The longest hitters hit at 270, right? And the shorter
Yep.
hitters hit at 230. But the guy that's 230 that's in the fairway all day can still compete against the guy that's hitting at 270 that's missing
There you
four
go.
fairways around because he's playing a high spinning golf ball. And the high
There
spinning
you
golf
go.
ball is harder to control when you hit it longer distances. So it was beautiful in that way because
Yep.
the longer hitters had an advantage if they were in the fairway. But when the ball was more high spinning, it was harder to keep it in the fairway, and that brought it
Right.
all back together, right? And you
That's
could make your
right.
choice. I want to be a long hitter. I want to be a short hitter, right? Most of the guys settled upon being in the middle, like
In the middle.
245 to 255, and
Right. In the
Curtis
middle.
James, people like that. Nick Faldo, big guy, right? You're telling me Nick Faldo couldn't have been one of the longest hitters in history of the game if he'd wanted to,
Right.
if he'd done all the
If he
speed
wanted
training
to.
and all that stuff. Big, strong guy, but he understood that to play professional golf, he was better to be a mid-range length guy that hit every fairway 250 down the middle, right?
Control. Right.
6'4", and he just bunts it down there. How many majors did he win? He won the Masters a few times, won the U.S. Open, right? He won the
Yep.
British. I mean,
Yep.
one of the greatest
Six
players of all
six
time.
majors. He got
Six
six
majors,
majors. Yeah.
right?
Yeah, 6 majors. Yep.
Incredible, incredible. And he chose to be a mid distance kind of guy, right?
Well,
Certainly
that's what
was.
I'm working with my children on, my juniors. I'm showing them that there's 3 games. We got a finesse game, we have a power game, and then there's a speed game. And I said, what you're seeing on tour right now is a lot of power and speed, but you're not seeing a lot of finesse. You got if Rory McIlroy just worked on his wedge game, probably nobody would ever beat him. But Rory, from a wedge from 112 yards, he's 30, 40 feet away from the pin, and
Yeah, yeah, he's the best wedge player, is he?
yeah, exactly right. So you think about that. You say, okay, the guy hits it 340, but then he gets a wedge in his hand, and the other guy's sitting out 140, and Rory got 100 yards. Well, guess what? Scotty Scheffler's getting it closer from 140 than what Rory's getting it from 111.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
I mean,
and it's
these
because
guys are
Scotty
all great.
Scheffler.
These guys are all great players in the modern super golf, right? And
Yes, yes,
kudos
yeah,
to them for figuring that
yeah,
out.
yeah,
My situation really is that as a golf instructor, I understand that not everybody plays these kind of golf courses.
there you go.
I don't teach a lot of touring pros for good reason because I don't really want to.
Right,
So my partner Bradley Hughes, that we worked together for years on the advanced ball striking side, he's out there on the tour. Bradley, like, you teach those guys, right? So he can go out and teach those guys, but I want to work with the regular people that are just trying to, play their narrow, tight golf course that they play with small greens and rough and trees and all this. And there's a lot of those
hmm
golf courses still out there that amateur players and weekend players are playing, that they're trying to negotiate and navigate through real golf courses, right? So they come here to advanced ball striking and they learn how to control the golf ball so that they improve. And we've had great success improving players, regular everyday people that come to us and learn to start controlling the golf ball. And if they want the power game and all that, then there's 1,000 websites out there with everybody who's going to tell you how to speed train.
correct.
And go there. But
That's
but if
right.
you want to control the golf ball, if you want to play the game like all the great strikers did, like Hogan did, like Sam Snead did, and Nicholas and Palmer, and on and on. Isao Aoki. I mean, you pick your guy, then come here, and we'll teach you how to control the golf ball. So anyway,
Right.
let me jump off the soapbox again.
Well, no, but that's what interested me about when I found your sites and everything and your videos was that for me, what I saw was more of a focus into playing golf, and I think that's what right now I think we have a big division between golf swing and playing golf, and I don't think there's a lot of instructors out there that's actually focused on playing golf. I think because the science of the swing has been so popular right now. So anytime I can gravitate towards somebody that has more of a focus on let's build you a swing that's going to allow you to play golf. I think that's good. I think that's good for golf. I think that's good for everybody because at the end of the day, I've always felt that the bread and butter of the golf industry are Joe and Sally Golfer. That's who we need to spend a lot of time focusing on is Joe and Sally Golfer because they are the fuel. They are what moves the golf industry right there. So it's always been my focus. I love working with the regular golfers and everything, and I do well with them and because I want them to play better golf and I want them to be able to go out and enjoy themselves and have fun. And like I tell my junior scholars all the time, and I deal with underprivileged juniors from the rural area in the inner city, and I tell them, I said, you're gonna notice that the more fun you're having, the lower scores you're gonna start having. I said
Yes,
because having fun equates to having a lower score, and they're
and
starting to see it.
wanting
It
to
does.
improve, right? When
That's
you when
right.
you
Wanting to improve.
because if you're enjoying it and it's fun and your scores get lower, it's like, well, how far can I take this? And
How
then
far
that's
can I
fun.
take it? There you
Yeah,
go.
that's really
How far can
fun.
I take it? Yeah. How far can I take it? So that
So,
so the
so what
juniors
do we
they're
do?
doing
Just real
good.
quick, what do we do about then? When we're talking about kids that are underprivileged and they're learning the great game of golf, and yet they are really in need of financial assistance, getting into colleges and universities and scholarships and that sort of thing. What do you propose could be a solution for that?
It's a tough journey. It's an uphill journey. I know that what I have created, and I've talked to other coaches that we need to create an environment for them. Like my juniors that come to my facility, they can hit a bucket of balls for free every day. And if they're walking, long as the tee sheet is not filled, they can go walk 9 homes for free every day. Every day they can do that. So we've given them an environment. I give out probably 100 to 150 set of clubs a year. My storage right there, I have shoes, outfits, uniforms, everything
Good,
for
good
the
to hear
juniors,
that.
right? And I'm trying to tell
That's
people
good.
this is a platform that should be shared across, right? My mother used to always say a closed fist can't receive nothing, but it also can't give nothing. So you know what I mean? So what I made sure that I'm going to give these children an opportunity now, but
That's
it's going to
great. What
take
a great
other
slogan.
coaches to duplicate this system, to duplicate this system where these children, these junior scholars have somewhere. Because what happens is, and this is a tough one for a lot of the people when they get out there, we just had an event. It was 126 kids in it, and I had five of my kids played in it, and all of them placed within number one to number five. So they was beating these country club kids, right? And that's a tough pill to swallow for these club kids. But guess what? The country club kids' parents, they get your card and they call you up because they say, wait a minute, if they're doing this with this limited access and this ability, then what can we do with this if I put my child in this environment, but it all comes down to giving wholesome instruction that's applicable, usable, and transferable to the golf course. And that is the most important thing. Is it transferable to the golf course? And I don't talk about other coaches and whatnot, but what I see out here a lot of times right now, a lot of it is not usable and transferable to the golf course. And it makes me beg the question, why are we sharing this information if it's not usable and transferable to the golf course?
Yeah, well, that's great. I mean, at Advanced Ball Striking, I'll speak for our whole staff here. We're thrilled to have you reach out to us, and we're going to do everything we can to help you join our staff and be involved with what we're doing through our modules and stuff like that. So,
I appreciate that. I really do.
anybody not supporting what you're doing is just fantastic. I feel like sometimes I'm not doing anything. I got a YouTube channel. I'm a washed up touring pro. Just have some swing ideas or whatever, and it's like I put it out there.
Right.
But to get an email the other day from yourself saying, reaching out and saying, hey, we're using your advanced ball striking concepts and we're improving our kids around here. I mean, to think that anything that I could be spewing out on my deck out in the backyard could have an effect on somebody in the inner city in Atlanta is just it's mind boggling actually to me.
Oh no, it's working. And like, and I don't believe in coincidences, so I believe that I was listening to a podcast, um, Mark on the spot with Mark Immelman.
Yeah, I
And
know
I
who
listened to Mark a
Mark.
lot. And all of a sudden, I was listening to some of the archive ones, right? And I was like, man, who is this John Erickson guy, man? I said, man, he got some good
Yeah,
ideas. So then when I came home, I couldn't wait. I was driving, right? And when I got home, I just start Googling. I start Googling, right? And I found, so I start finding stuff. And I was like, man, and I couldn't wait to get up the next day and get to the golf course. Like I said, they are my beloved students, but they also are like a clinical trial. So so I said, hey, I got something I want everybody to try. And and I'm saying, wait a minute, I'm hearing compression, I'm seeing better motion, I'm seeing the kids' eyeballs, I'm seeing that when they hit a ball, they turn around, they look at me, I'm seeing that smile, and I'm like, oh. I write that down. That's in the toolbox. You know what I'm saying? I say, let's try that. So then all week long, we trying these different concepts that you're sharing, and I'm watching your YouTube videos over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Just keep on watching them so I can see what are you saying not once, but over and over and over again. And I say, okay, that's something important because he said it 6, 7 times. So if somebody says something
Hold
six,
shaft
seven times,
license. That's right.
r-
Yeah. Hold
pay
shaft
attention.
license.
Right, pay attention, right? And then I take it to the, to the kids and I say, okay. I say, so this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna focus on where if we can put this shaft over here, and I said we're gonna do it with very slow motion. So I could, they doing it in the slow motions and they starting to get it. They starting to get it. You can see the motion because most of them are looking at videos on TV, seeing the pro, and they up there at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, right? And I be like, ooh wee. I said, I don't know how you gonna get that club back to the ball, consistently. But then when I tell them to swing flatter, and I don't say flat, I do say flatter because if they get more flat than what they were, they are flatter. Then all of a sudden they start getting a better motion. It's just I don't know I don't know the science behind it, but I just know they get a better motion when I get them flatter.
Well, yeah, because when you swing flatter, you're going to turn your body more, right? If you're swinging it more upright, you can just
Yep,
do the arms, right?
yep,
You can
yep.
see
You
that right
lifting,
here.
you
But if I
lifting.
start turning, if I go flat, I start rotating my body. Then I'm swinging from my core, and then we can start touching into martial arts and the Dantian and the Chi and all that stuff like that. And
Right,
every whether you look at Ted Williams or Willie Mays or what I mean, Willie Mays and the baseball would start on the back of the batter's box, and his forward leg would move all the way to the front of the box like a major push off the right foot as he was,
that's right,
moving into the ball. We're
that's
again
right,
very similar actions that we're talking about here. Ted Williams, the way he tripped the shaft and the bat, I'll say the shaft, the bat, right?
right.
And but yeah, so getting back just quickly on the game though, but I really believe that spirit, the true spirit of golf, lies in the persimmon and wood driving clubs. That's going all the way back Hickory Area Classic game. Baseball has stuck with wood, right? And for a
Yeah,
reason, right? Not that they
that's
couldn't,
right.
they could have titanium baseball bats that with a
That's
with a juiced up polypropylene baseball where shortstops would hit 200 home runs a year. I mean, they could do that,
they
right? They
could,
could,
right?
but they
Yeah,
don't because they respect the tradition of the game. They respect the early traditions of the game. They respect that the ballparks don't need to be made bigger, right? Um, all of these things, I think golf, made a mistake at that point. At some point in the late '70s, early '80s, the PGA Tour could have just said, "USGA, you can legalize whatever you want for average golfers, but here in the show, in the
a
big
cap
leagues,
off. Yep,
here it is. You hit persimmon. Baseball, you got wood. Cricket, you got a wood bat. Cricket
sure
1979,
do.
I showed up with an aluminum bat. Boom, out. They said no. They still use willow wood even to this day, and cricket is the biggest stick and ball game in the world.
Correct.
Baseball being number two and golf being number three. Golf deviated from the model that cricket and baseball had used to preserve the integrity of the game, and now the USJ and everybody's up and what are we going to do? And they just had the Walker Cup at Cypress Point. And I'll just give you an example. The ninth hole is a par five there, and being a persimmon player, and I'm a good player, and I hit them. I'm not a short hitter. I am not a short hitter, and I hit driver two wood into the green side bunker. Okay, and the kids were there were a couple kids, and it's a par five hit driver gap wedge
What?
into the ninth hole at Cypress Point in the Walker Cup.
Wow.
Driver gap wedge. I'm hitting
Wow.
driver two wood, and you know what I'm saying. So my risk and reward back there at coming in with a two wood is very hard to hit that green with a wood. I've got to feed it between the bunkers and get it on there. I end up in a greenside bunker
Wow.
trying to get up and down for birdie. These guys have a gap wedge trying to get it up and down for eagle, right? So
Isn't
the
that
course is
something?
the great Alistair McKenzie that designed all these great golf courses is
Mm-hmm.
being respected. Okay, he would be flipping in his grave right now, knowing about what's happened, how people are playing his golf course. That course would not be designed that way if he knew that the ball was going 350 yards.
Oh
Right.
no, not at all. Yeah,
So
not at
my
all.
argument is, while the fanfare and everything around that, the Walker Cup, I mean, it's all great and the history and Cypress Point and all that. But my point really is that I feel bad for the kids that played in that Walker Cup because they're not actually getting to play Cypress Point as it was intended. That
experience it.
yes, to experience it correctly as it was
Right.
intended. But because if they play Cypress Point and they shoot 65 out there, with the modern gear hitting 350-yard drives. Does anybody think that's the same as Ben Hogan shooting 65 out there in the
No, it's
match?
not even
Right?
close. No,
I
it's
mean,
not even
well,
close.
they
Yeah,
know that. The kids know that too. But the kids don't get the opportunity to walk away with the kind of pride and knowing that they actually did something that was equally historic, right? If they shoot
correct.
65, I know it's match play. I understand that. And the scores weren't posted, but these kids know what they shot out there, right?
They know
They
what they
know they,
shot. Right,
yeah, they know what they shot. And none of them get to go away knowing that they were able to play the same level of golf as the previous generations that played there. And that's unfortunate, I see, because these are amateur golfers. We're not talking about the PGA Tour here.
right.
We're talking about amateur. Now they're probably all going to turn pro and try for the PGA Tour. And one other thing about the Walker Cup used to be a mix of college players and then like mid amateur players. There were guys
I
on
thought
Walker Cup
so.
teams that were
Right,
40 years
right.
old in the past. Now all the Walker Cup kids, the oldest kid was like what 22 or
Oh
something.
wow.
There were none of the mid amateur guys or older guys. I mean, when I was playing, I played in the U.S. Amateur three times, and
Right,
I had a good run in 1983. I made the quarterfinals, and um, I probably came very close to playing Jay Siegel, who won the tournament. I lost my quarterfinal match in the 19th hole. The next
right,
day, to Chris Perry, who was a collegiate player of the year that year, I took him 19 holes. He had to make a 30-foot putt on the last hole to tie the match. I'm already in for par, and he's got to make a
right.
downhill left to right 30-foot putt. Or
It made
if he
it.
misses, I win the match. I play the next day, and the next day I think it was Cliff Pierce had a bad day, and Chris beat him like 6-5. So I probably would have won that match and played Jay. My point is that Jay was like 40. I was
Right,
19,
right,
right? U.S.
right,
Amateur, right? So, Jay playing on the Walker Cup, right? Wins the US Amateur. He's on the Walker Cup. He was like in his 40s. Now, again, isn't that great that when you could have youth against experience?
exactly.
Do we
That's
see that
right.
now?
That's right.
Do we
That's
see that
right.
now? No, we don't see that. So I don't
No,
see
we
that
don't
as
see it no more. No, you don't. You definitely don't see that no more. Jack was talking about they was playing one of the holes at Pebble, and he was commentating on it. He was talking about him and Sam Snead when they played, and he said back then he said Sam hit a 2 iron, and he said he hit a 3 iron. He said now they hit 9 irons into the green. I was like, could you imagine that? Jack and Sam Snead, two of the best to ever do it. To ever do it. A 2 iron and a 3 iron. And today he said they're hitting 9 irons into that green. 9 irons.
well, the course isn't set up for that, and again, it just gets back to these three eras of golf. I mean,
Hmm.
you got the Hickory era, you got the classic game, Persimmon and Blades, and you got the modern super golf. I think people just need to start distinguishing the difference at this point in time. I mean, at this
I
point in
think that's a
time,
good point. Yep.
and just say, look, like a course record. If I show up at a golf course, let's say I show up at a classic Bay Area course here, like the California Golf Club, all right, a nice private club, right, old school course, little greens and all that stuff. And I show up and
Right.
I say, what's the course record out here? And they say, well, it's 62. Okay, well, when was that shot? Well,
Right.
it was shot a couple years ago by a college kid from Berkeley. Oh, okay. Well, what was the record prior to that back in the Persimmon and Blade area? Well, a guy shot 64 here back in 1967 with Persimmon Blades and Bellata. Okay. So why don't golf courses have the Persimmon record,
That's
the
right.
modern record, right? Because at least, I mean, think how disrespectful it is if you shot a course record, okay, on a golf course back in the 60s or the 70s or the 80s or even into the 90s using persimmon and blades, and you shot that course record, and then somebody comes along and breaks your record that's hitting the ball 50 yards farther than you did.
Right. Right.
How does that feel?
Right.
How does it feel, you as an old man, when you walk in there and you wonder if your course record still holds? People have pride. They got pride. I've got some
That's
course
right.
records. I mean, I have some pride in that, right? If I walk in, I see my name up there, course record.
Right.
Oh
Well, my
no, no,
buddy.
the course record's gone. These are the things that people aspire to do. they aspire to shoot course records, right?
Well, it's true.
Uh,
I got a friend, Gus Fatale. Both his sons play at Temple right now, and one of his sons broke a 50-year-old Sam Snead record in Pennsylvania, right? And I had told Gus at the time, he was like, "Yeah," he said, "my son broke Sam Snead's record." And I said, "Gus," I said, "that's a 50-year record." I said, that it's not the same. I said, "It's not the same." I said, Sam Snead played that record with a Wilson Persimmon and blades. It's not the same. It's not the same, and we went back and forth on that in a fun way. But I'm glad you said that because I was trying to share with him that it should have been a stopgap when Titleist 975Ds came out. They should have said this is the new era right here. So
yes.
so then you got this
These
era.
things can be repaired. These things can be repaired right now, right? Any
Yep.
golf course could post two course records, or maybe three if it's way back, if it's a hickory track, right?
Right.
The
Right.
hickory
Right.
record, the persimmon and blade record, the modern record, this we call it
Modern
super
record.
golf,
Right.
classic game, and they can be fixed. It's like, okay, we're going to still respect. Um, I'll give you an example. At my course where I grew up, Palos Verdes Country Club in Los Angeles. Okay, I
Hmm.
actually I didn't grow up there. I spent my high school years there because my parents moved down there. So I was only there sophomore, junior, senior year for 3 years. Great golf course, 6,200 yards, narrow, crazy greens, tight. Ocean wind coming off the South Bay, and the at 1 o'clock it was like sit there with a stopwatch. Whoosh, here it comes, right?
Right. Right.
The course record on that course was 61 by a guy named
Wow.
Jim Rozecki, okay, who played at USC and was a great player. And he grew up at that course, and he shot 61 on that golf course. Now, years later, somebody came along with a frying pan driver and shot 59 on that golf course. Okay,
Willie
so,
50.
and
Woo.
I'm not going to say that that's not a great score, but why not post two records? 59. So anyone coming out there in the modern era,
In the
there's your
modern
course
era.
record. And anyone that wants to try, like myself, I'm going to see if I can tie the record or beat it with persimmon and blades. I
Yeah, I
go
want
out
to
there
go
and
for the classic
I've
record.
got my witnesses. There's my record. John Erickson shot 60. Right? I could
Right.
still, in the modern era, go after that old course record, but I have to play persimmon and blades, right? I mean, this is just
Yeah.
common sense, isn't it? Am I talking crazy here?
No, I think that also would add a lot of intrigue back into the game because then you would get players that would want to come out and say, "Hey, I'm going for the classic record at X course today," and I think that would actually bring some excitement, right. I think a lot more people would play Persimmon and Blades if they had something to chase. I think they're trying to keep up with their buddies and everything. And they playing for little $5 Nassaus and all this kind of stuff. And it takes away from it. It does. But I still play the old equipment myself. And I know I have a lot of fun playing it, I really do. And I've had guys send me their equipment because they just say I can't play no more with the guys I play with. And I got a guy sent me a set of 1999 Hogan Apexes that was forged in Japan. I was like, dude, you know what you sending me? He was like, yeah, I get a lot of stuff. Some Byron Nelsons, some Cleveland Byron Nelsons. Another guy sent me those. The 681s, 68.1, the scoring average that he had that year. I said, "Are you aware of what these clubs are?" And he said, "I can't play them." He said, "But I know you will." You know, um, so I get a lot of benefit from guys that just don't want to. They can still play blades, but they refuse to play them.
I've got a scorecard from 1938 Masters. Walter Hagen
Hmm?
shot 68 at Augusta. The course was 6,800 yards in 1938. Walter Hagen
Wow.
shot 68.
That's serious. Because when I look at the old scores a lot, and I tell people, I say, people really think that getting under par is normal. I say, but when you look at some old books, I say there was not too many players shooting under par. I said, I looked at a lot of the majors, and a lot of those majors was won at daggone +6, +7, +8. And I said, so players that shot under par was a very, very special player.
Yeah, I I just think that all three games should exist.
Yeah,
Hickory Air, I mean, you can play Hickory clubs and go out and play a 5,600-yard course and have a great time.
they have a whole society that the Hickory Club
Yeah,
does.
they do. And one of the guys on our staff, Neil, plays in the Hickory championships over in the UK, and he's won like 5 or 6 of them, national championships with the
Wow.
Hickory. Like he's using all the ABS concepts. He's on our staff, right? So
Right.
I mean, a great champion, and he was a 7 handicap when he started working with us, and he went down to a +1, and then started winning national Hickory championships all over the UK. You know,
That's great.
so this stuff works technique wise, and we do our best to help out people that want to focus on ball control. I mean, I'm not teaching short hitters. It's not like I teach a golf swing that's just where you're just going to bunt it out there. I mean, I
Right.
believe you have power and accuracy, and they can go together, but the goal isn't just to maximize club head speed and ball velocity. I mean, when I
Right.
look at
Exactly.
PGA Tour and it shows like ball speed on a 6 iron. Like what is that? Well,
I
why would
know.
I even consider that as relevant at all to the shot that I'm hitting? Because I look at the shot and I'm deciding first what trajectory do I want to
Yeah.
come into the shot. I want to go
There
with
you
the
go.
lowest trajectory I possibly can, because with a lower trajectory I don't have to take as big a swing, and I eliminate the possibility for more errors. Or if I just can just go tuk, tuk, like that, right, and send the
Yeah.
thing out there, and
That's
I'm not going
right.
to have to worry about the ball getting up
That's
in the
right.
air all over with the wind and all that. I can just go get that
Yep.
thing on the ground and run it on up there, right? So
Exactly.
these are the things that we teach: ball control, shaping it, and how to score based upon we're very strict with the technique to learn how to do this. And
Right.
then once you get the technique, that's it, man. It's time to go play golf. You got to put your
Right.
you can't have a thought in your head at all. It's ball, target, right? How are you going to
There you
where's the
go.
ball, target? And I had Monty on yesterday, and he was talking about one of the great tips that Bill Melhorn he gave. So Bill Melhorn would put a hat out, and he
Hmm.
gives like 10 golf balls and say, okay, how many of these golf balls can you toss into that hat? From 10 feet
Right.
away.
Right.
How many can you toss in there? And then they might get 1 or 2 or something like that. And then he would say, I don't really care how many you got. I don't care whether you got 1 in or 10. The point that I'm going to make to you is where where was your wrist at what was the angle of your wrist when you were tossing into the guy? I don't know. Where was what was your grip pressure? I don't know. How far was your hand? Was it over here? No, I was just tossing him in. It's like you just toss him in.
Oh.
See what I'm saying? Like you at that point you just take the skill set that you have, and now you're feeling the ball to the target, right?
There you
So
go.
where's
Right.
the ball to
Right.
the target, and you go bam, bam,
Right.
but you've taken all these months or years to learn the technique, so that but your bam bam is like filled with velocity and acceleration
Right.
and holding shaft flex and controlling the club face and all that stuff, because you did
Correct.
the work. You
You've
did the
done the
work so that
work.
you can just go
You've done the
shoosh,
work.
shoosh,
Right.
so that now
Right.
golf is easy. Like for
That's
me,
right.
golf is easy. It's easy,
Because you've done
because
the
I have good
work.
technique.
There
I've
you
done the
go.
work. I
The
have good
technique. You've
technique.
done the work.
I don't think
Yep.
about it anymore. Yeah,
Yep. You
I
don't
don't
have to
think
think
about it.
about it because
Yeah,
you put the work in. The journey
yeah.
does require work, and that's one of my taglines, that the journey requires work.
Yeah, I mean, a great quarterback. I mean, when he's going back, you think he's thinking about his arm position or where his elbows at or whatever. Guys are
Nope.
chasing him and stuff. Or
Nope.
Michael Jordan
Exactly.
driving the lane or whatever. You look
No,
at
they're
Michael
not worried
Jordan
about
driving
none
the
of that.
lane. I mean, he's not thinking about any. He's just whatever, he's contorting his body to get the ball into the basket. But then he gets at the
Right.
free throw line, and it's like he's got to dribble, and he's got to now he's consciously thinking about
Yeah.
it's almost harder, right? Free throw is almost like hitting a golf shot, where all you have all this time to think about things, right?
Right.
You know,
Well,
I
that's
think the
so
more you
important because
autopilot,
that's yeah, and that's one of the things I try to force through and share with with all my children, my junior scholars. I say, I want you to be more task focused. What is the task? What are we trying to achieve today? What is the task? Instead of worrying about, hey, coach, where's my right elbow? I don't care where your right elbow. What was the task? The task was to get 35 balls around that red and white steak. That's the task. Now go make it happen. Be task focused, because when you become task focused, your skill acquisition goes up. When you become task focused, and then that right elbow that you're so worried about, it's already starting to slot now because it has to slot if you want to get that ball to where you need to go to.
Yeah, I'm not big on hitting lots of golf balls. I think you can learn technique through drills and exercises, train the body to move and do the right thing, and then even
Right,
without a ball, when we're talking like we were talking about low point control, right? So
right.
one of the things I used to do, and I did this when I was on tour, sometimes I would hardly hit any golf balls when I was warming up. I would take a lot of practice swings and just try and take thin, shallow divots that all look the same. If I could take 10 divots in a row that all look
Oh
like dollar
yeah.
bills. Okay, one, two, three, four. Well, guess what? When you put a ball in the way of that, boom, right?
You're
What it
golden. You're
means,
golden.
the
Right.
problem with hitting a lot of golf balls, and I've told this story before um, many times, but hitting golf balls before you play can be negative when you get to the first tee. In other words, if I'm not hitting it well on the range, I'm going to the first tee with this kind of, I'm not hitting it very good today, right? And that's not a good
Oh
way to
yeah.
tee off. The other
Right.
thing is you hitting it great on the range, okay? And your caddy's like, wow, you're hitting it great today, John. It's like, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I tee it up on the first hole and I hit it dead right in the trees. And then
Right.
it's like walking down the fairway going like, what happened? I was hitting it great on the range. Now I'm thinking, I actually like the
Overthinking.
idea of going to the first tee, not really knowing how I'm going to play today. I have no
Right.
idea. Am I going to shoot 65 or am I going to shoot 75? I don't
Right.
know.
Right.
That way I can go out there and engage the golf course. Like I'm not setting any sort of game expectations. Like I'm going to play great. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
play bad. Let's just get out there and start hitting golf shots and see what happens,
Yeah,
and
it makes
hopefully I have
sense.
a good day, but I stay open both ways. I stay open to the possibility of shooting really low, and I
Right.
stay open to the possibility of shooting really high.
There you
I'm
go.
just going to accept the results. At the end of the day, it's like I'm going to sign my card. Hey, what'd you shoot today? I shot 78. You know, there's
That's
no
so
pictures of the
important though.
scorecard.
Right,
I shot
right. You
68. Oh, John, good round, great round, 68, great. Yeah, of course. 78. What am I? Oh, I shot 78. God, don't talk to me,
right,
Joe. Horrible. I
right.
gotta go to the range, figure out what I was doing. It's like, no, just shoot your round, post your score. 10 years from now, nobody's gonna even remember you even played this tournament.
That's true. That is the
You know,
truth. That is
I
the
mean,
100% truth.
just
Yep.
play your round, post your score, and be done with it. And because I think at a professional level or a top elite amateur level, the things that you remember are going to be the tournaments you won. I mean,
Always.
that's all your near misses. But I mean, the
That's
ones
right.
where you were right in the thick of it. I can't remember what place I finished in the 1988 Quebec Open. I don't even
Right.
remember. I can hardly remember what course we even played
See
at
that?
this point.
Right, right,
You know what I
right.
mean? But in that moment, I was stressing about every
Well,
shot,
in that
everything
moment, it was important. Right.
in the moment. And it's important, you do your best. My theory is like, here's the golf ball, there's the target. I'm going to decide what shot I'm going to hit. Is it going to be a low draw, a high fade, whatever? The trajectory, I pull my club based upon trajectory, not the distance I hit the club. In other words, I look at this shot and it's like, I need to hit this low. Okay, well, if I'm 150 yards, a little bit into the wind, I might hit a 4-iron,
Right,
right? I
right,
mean,
right.
if I want to keep it this far off the ground and just hit it into the wind and roll it up onto the
Yeah.
green, I pull my
Right.
club based on the trajectory. Then, once I decide the trajectory, then it's the shot shape. Am I going to draw it or am I going to fade it? I know in the body as an advanced ball striking student that I know that if I'm going to fade it, I do this. And if I'm going to draw it, I do that. Okay.
Okay.
Now I
Right,
figure
right,
out the
right.
intensity of the strike because I'm not taking a full swing at a 4 iron from 150. I'm going to take a half swing. So I'm going to go half swing with a draw, means boom, boom, practice swing. I just need to do that. Just need to do boom,
Right.
that. Then I get over it and I commit to it 100%. I get over it.
There
I
you
look at the
go.
target. There's the ball. There's a target. There's the ball. I'm going to commit to what the feeling that I need in the body to create that shot. And I'm going to go boom, boom, commit it. And then
Hmm.
I just, once that's done, hey, I'm
It's
free.
over. That's right.
I'm
It's
free.
over.
I
Right.
did it.
Yep. Yep.
I went I gave it 100%. I gave it my best effort. You know what? At that point, I just got to live with the results.
And let it go.
Whatever that is. I got a bad kick, or it went in the hole, or whatever it did. I just live with the results, good or bad. And then I get on to the
Right.
next shot.
Right.
I play golf like that. And when the round is over, when the tournament is over, when the week is over, when the season is over, when my entire year is over, I can look at the results and say, okay, now I can sit back and say, okay, how did we do?
There you
I'll
go.
go to my
Right.
sponsors. Hey, you
Right.
guys want to help me out again this year? you know, these are my results. No, we don't, John. you know, no, we didn't do good enough. We're pulling the money out. You go get a real job. Or no, great that you won the tournament, and I see great progress. We want to back you again this year. Live with the
Right.
results.
Right.
Do your best.
Right.
But at least that way, you know that you gave it your best. You practiced,
That's
you
it.
trained, you showed up to the events, you did it, you gave it your best, and that's what you take to the grave.
There you go. That's true.
You know.
That's true. Yeah.
All right, Michael. Any final thoughts?
No, I think that this was a great conversation. I appreciate you,
Man,
having me on. You know,
great meeting you,
I,
Michael.
and then tomorrow morning I'm gonna let the children. They all out tomorrow. We do a Saturday program. I'm gonna let them know that I talked to you. We had a great conversation.
Well, we're going to make sure that you have all our material from advanced ball striking so that you can help out the kids. That's great. And just applaud you for your efforts. Thank you so much for your contributions to the game, to the
Thank
juniors,
you.
and we're going to look forward to having you join our staff.
Thank you. I appreciate you, John.
Okay, Michael.
All right.
We'll
Take
talk
care.
soon.
Okay. Bye
Bye.
bye.